A 2-second overview of the last 100 years would show considerable success in the building and impact of these institutions. Governments have stepped into civilised markets, regulating, creating and saving markets to ensure the social was not entirely displaced by the commercial. Collectivised workers through their unions have successfully engaged with capital to build a middle class and a real political agency. And democratic structures founded on progressive principles have given citizens both the capacity and the opportunity to have a say, be heard and shape the future. In summary, the 20th century saw much progress, and progressives could indeed see the arc of history bend forward. There was an appreciable distribution downward of wealth and a contraction in inequity. Power was more dispersed, and risk through a robust welfare system was significantly minimised through collectivised responses. However, as we know, the latter years of the last century saw a significant shift in the fortunes of all three institutions and consequential shifts in wealth, power and risk. The Reagan and Thatcher era ushered in a 30-year shift to market dominance and government retreat. Unions also took a hit, not because workers didn't want to be more powerful or thought they could do better on their own, but because the state and employers made organising more and more difficult. And democracies were also challenged with the advent of big money politics and more aggressive and overt business intervention. The result is that we've seen a conscious redistribution of wealth to the top, with growing inequity a feature of advanced economies in the last 30 years. We've seen power shift from people and their unions, their democracies and their communities to business and the wealthy. And we've seen individuals increasingly exposed to risk as both employers fracture labour markets and governments retreat from service delivery and promote individually purchased market solutions. It's pretty clear to me when I look at the Cathys of the world, their lives are increasingly precarious. Cathy Daniels has to sit out her split shift breaks in a cold and impersonal shopping centre for almost as many hours as she works, because business has turned her previous full-time job into a just when you need you type job. Cathy bears all the risk. The consequential low pay impedes her capacity to live well, to accumulate assets and to retire with security. The risk simply compounds. For Kath Jorgensen, the pathway to getting ahead provided by skill formation has proven a dead end. Higher qualifications deliver little in terms of financial recompense, as service jobs fail to value experience or qualifications. How does she get ahead? How does her family get ahead? How does our society get ahead when Cathy gives up on a caring profession because it doesn't enable her to look after her own family? And without industrial rights and organisation, neither Cathy nor Kath has a hope in hell of changing those circumstances. For them, the ledger is stacked against them in relation to wealth and power, while stacked in favour of risk. That is what needs changing. That is our progressive challenge. To build a vision that animates our community to want better and expect better, that is grounded in the lives and experiences of the Caths of the world, that understands the blockages that impede people's capacity to build and exercise power, that emboldens and arms these women with more than simply righteous anger, and that has ambition and a tenacity to fight hard and not step back. But on all those fronts, ambition, vision, capacity, confidence and preparedness, I think our progressive movement is failing these women. The GFC, a moment of dramatic market failure, was an opportunity for a progressive-led response, but we were caught flat-footed. Yes, a government-funded stimulus was a critical intervention, but what of the much deeper opportunity to question market economy orthodoxies, What about a real discussion on curbing financial market freedoms? What about reining in some of the excesses? I had an academic just last week ask the question, was the GFC the greatest global economic catastrophe since the Great Depression, the beginning of the demise of market liberalism, or its moment of greatest triumph? I think the odds at this stage would be favouring triumph over retreat. But although we may have lost one opportunity, a new and potentially much more fundamental opportunity looms, and that is the economic restructuring that will arise in response to climate change. A new industrialisation will undoubtedly create massive challenges for progressives, but as we know, such watersheds also afford opportunity for change. We know change is inevitable, but we also know that progress is optional. Progress will only happen when it's conscious and deliberative. It needs to be planned for and fought for. It's about shifting power, ruffling vested interests, and therefore it will be contested and controversial. We can't run from controversy, but we also can't underestimate what it takes to win. It takes a movement. We need to build people power through organisation in the workplace, the party, the electorate, and other spheres of human activity that counter the voices of privilege and business. That will require openness to new methods of organising, and it requires genuine political commitment to the importance and possibility of activism. But a movement needs a catalyst and a clarion call. It needs a clear, compelling and ambitious vision, a vision that speaks to the aspirations of our Cathys, that gives countless others like them the confidence and passion to get behind that vision and fight for it. Chifley, in his famous speech of 1951, was adamant. You cannot afford to be in the middle of the road. You have to be quite clear about what you believe in, whether popular or unpopular, and you have to fight for it. It's not being in the middle, particularly when the middle has shifted so far to the right. It is about taking sides. It's not simply being pragmatic. It's about standing for what's right. It's not accepting inevitability. It's about being ambitious and bold and having belief that we can change the world. And the best protection for doing those things is as a collective, a movement with momentum. We owe it to the Cathys of this world to work with them, to take their concerns and their dreams and envision something bold and noble, to build something that makes progressive change a reality, not just a possibility, an endeavour that truly builds a more progressive and fulfilling future for all.